Welcome to WP Theme Tutorial, episode 48. Today we're going to look at the featured ads. This is specifically actually with ClassyPress, but we have our own query to get our featured ads. But how are we going to deal with it if we don't have enough ads? We actually need to get more. So that's what we're going to look at today. You can see here we're on my client site, GunTrader, and we have one featured ad which is using the WordPress sticky post, and that's how it does it. You can see here I have featured ads calling the GN featured ad query. Now that's this class right here. All this really does is wrap up WP query. It defines some of our pre-existing arguments. A featured ad query is going to be for an ad listing. I typically want 5. It does require sticky posts, and I want it to be ordered by random. So that's all this does. I'll actually link in the show notes to Brad, my buddy of mine, Brad, and he actually, I guess, showed me this technique first, or I saw it on his site. So that's all this really does. It's just a wrapper for WP query with some predefined arguments. So getting back to this, you can see I have featured ads equals GN featured ad query. And that's fine, it works. You can see I have my loop down here, and we'll get to what this conditional stuff is in a second. But I only have one ad. And that's not what I want. I want 5 ads across. So I'll uncomment this, and that is calling a template function. The reason I use a template function here is just a bunch of logic, and I wanted to keep my template file nice and clean, so I put the logic out in a template tags file. So when I uncomment that, you're going to see that we get 5 ads. There you go, 5 ads. I'm in development, so I actually don't have this image pulled down yet. And I still have that sticky featured ad over there. That's the one that I have to have, because in this case, they've actually paid to have their ad featured. Now, how do I get the rest of them? I'm going to my template tags. You can see I've got a few lines commented out, transient lines, and I'll show you why I have them commented out in just a second. All right, we're back. I saw my mouse died, so I decided to change the batteries. So you can say I was saying I had the transient lines commented out, line 206, line 216, and 238. And I'll show you what those lines do and why we want to use them in a minute. So for now, you can also ignore these 4 lines as well. These 4 lines are checking if we have our transient, and I'll show you exactly what those do in a second. The most important stuff starts on line 213. So the first thing I need to do, since I want 5 posts, is figure out how many. So inside our query object, which was featured ads, right there, there's an item called post count. And what it does is it contains the number of posts we already have. Since I know I want 5, I'm doing 5 minus post count is my variable how many. I'm trying to keep the variable name sane here. And then I have to exclude because I don't want to get the sticky posts again. So I'm going to use WP list pluck. WP list pluck is a super magic function basically. It allows you to search an array and get all the values based on key. So let's actually look that up. WP list pluck has a good example right here. So we have our name and color. We have a a nested array. WP list pluck lets us say, in this case, food, and I want only the names, and it plucked out all the names out of this array. So what I'm doing here is our query object has an array of posts in it, which is all the posts that it got, and I'm telling it to pluck my IDs. So I want all of my IDs plucked out, and they're passed into this variable called not these, because these are not the posts I want. And the next thing I'm going to do is set my arguments for get posts. That's why I called it get posts args. Again, trying to have clear variable names. Now, my post per page, remember, is how many. In this case, I only have 1 post, so I'm asking for 4. My post type is add listing, because that's the post type it has. Post not in is I don't want these posts, so it's going to take an array, which we built with WP list pluck, and I don't want any of the posts in this array. And it's going to say order by random. And then I can make my posts and use get posts. So now what we have is 4 posts that are not our sticky post, which is good, but we want our sticky post included in there because in this case our customers actually paid to have that post featured. So it'd be silly if we weren't actually featuring it for them, and they'd probably be upset. So the next thing we do is we jump back down to our WP list pluck. And what we do is we take these posts please, and we're taking our posts. That's what we just got with get posts, so that's the 4 other ones, and we're going to pluck the IDs out of those. Now, what we have in these posts please is 4 posts only. What we want is our 4 posts plus our sticky post, which is the not these variable. The easiest way to do that is use array merge. All that's going to do is take our 2 arrays, our one called not these, which is our sticky post only at this point, and our one that is the 4 posts that we do want, and these are the arrays. And we're going to stick them back together, and then we're going to do one final query, and we're going to say post double underscore in. So this is basically saying I only want these posts, and we're going to order them by random. Then we pass it into gn add query, and again, gn add query, you can see here is our second one, or is our second class. All it is add listings. It's going to give us posts per page, and it's just a wrapper for WP query. And then once we have featured ads equal to new add query, or our new gn add query, we're going to return it. And that means that our featured ads in our template file is now equal to our sticky post and our 4 posts that we had at the beginning, or our 4 posts that we filled it in with. That's excellent. So when we refresh, see we're actually getting 4 random, but again I still have my sticky one in the middle there. I still have my sticky one in the middle. We'll do it one more time. So that's great. Our sticky one's at the end this time. We have what we want, but there's one more thing that we can do to make this a little faster, or to make this a little better. If I open the debug, you can see I have my total queries is 170, and it's 753 milliseconds. And every time I refresh, it's going to be about the same. 748. Now we're down to 168. So what we actually want to do now is we're going to uncomment all our transients. And what a transient does is it basically saves an option to the database. But this is a special kind of option. Our special kind of option takes 3 things. So when we look at the first set transient on 216, it takes existing sticky. That's the name of our transient, and I'm taking it not these. So what that's going to mean? It's going to mean whenever we build a new query with our existing sticky objects, or our sticky posts, it's going to say set them to this, or set them to our value of our transient. And we're going to have 60 by 2, so that's 120 seconds. The reason we're only keeping it for 120 seconds is that if a new user pays, they want to see their new ad up there, their featured ad, fairly quickly. So that's why we're keeping it down to 2 minutes. Then we do our rest, we built our whole query which we walked through, and at the end we're setting our transient, and we're going to call it saved featured ads. And this time it's our whole WP query object, which is again our 4 posts and our single sticky. And we're only saving it for 2 minutes, because again, when a client pays, they want to be able to see their ad fairly quickly. Right up here at the top is where we start to use our transients. We're using saved, and we're calling get transient existing sticky. So if this transient is around, and like I said, transients expire every 2 minutes in this case, or they just may not exist. They can be expired earlier depending on some special cases. In our case, we're hoping for 2 minutes. If it's set and not empty, we're going to get featured ads, and we're getting our saved featured ads, and then we're returning that query. So what we're doing is we're bypassing all the logic down below. We're not calling get posts, and we're not calling WP query a second time. We're just passing our fully formed query object back out to our site. So let's refresh again. What you're going to notice now is that our sticky posts are staying exactly the same. Or our featured posts are going to stay exactly the same. Because, like I said, we are saving this for 2 minutes, so we're saving our query. But we should be getting lower response times. So are we getting some lower response times? You can see we have 687 milliseconds, 730. We're getting it sometimes for sure. Now, I'm actually logged in as an admin. You can see that right across the top, which means I'm running in a non-cached mode all the time. So it's not actually caching queries. The great thing about transients is they actually cache if you're using it as well. If not, then they're just a database, a single database call as opposed to all these WP queries. But they do allow for caching. So let's open up a new browser and just go not signed in. And you can see how fast we were there. So let's inspect element and go to our network panel. It's blank now, but let's refresh. How are we coming in? So that's 959 milliseconds now, 667. Again, that's about 60 milliseconds slower. 610, you can see we have 610 down in the corner. 618, 580. So you can see we are faster than we were before running in uncached mode. So that's why I'm going to use the transients right off the bat. Now, there's other things we could do on this site. Often stuff like the Facebook does make things slower. But our main goal, at least for this chunk of code, was to get our featured ads, fill in some extras so that it doesn't look blank, and then cache it if we can. That's it. Thanks for watching.